a motorcycle rider in Minneapolis. So I thought, well, this guy must know his business. And he gave all these tips. He said, wear layers. He said, if you can, the secret trick is take cayenne pepper to kind of warm you from the inside out. But I didn't have any.
Right.
And then do some like a light exercise to kind of raise your, like, do a few jumping jacks, some squats, some push-ups before you go outside. But I got to tell you, I mean, he might have just been messing with me, but on this video. But the thing that I did, so I did this, right. I'm getting a nice little like a light sweat going. I'm layered up. I'm ready, man. And where I messed up though is he said to put on Vaseline. Because he said that way the wind will go around you. The wind will go.
Right.
But I ended up putting on. I didn't have any Vaseline, so I had lotion. So I lotioned my body up. And we're back. Hey everybody, it's Tom Clark. How are you, Tom?
Hello, Darren. How are you?
I'm great, man. I want to say personally, thank you so much. You know, you and your wife, you guys are great. Like, you're always thinking about new innovative ways to get comedy out there, to get our performances out there. And I read one of your posts last week, and I think it's going to change my comedy. I really do. You said something about linking your comedy albums to your YouTube channel, and I kind of knew that I could do that, but I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I don't know how to do it. And just the fact that you said to do it, and you said how you did it, I went into the links and did it, and then somehow it merged with, and I got more subscribers apparently. Awesome. And I filled out some paperwork, so hopefully I'll be at that Kevin Hart level. No.
Right.
No. Yeah.
You and The Rock will be buddies.
Exactly. Yeah, what's up, guys? Just putting my album on YouTube. Things are changed now. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I've never been a big competitor about comedy. Like, I don't think it should be such a competition. Like, I sort of got into comedy because I was into sports before, and I loved the competition. But I mean, for comedy, it's a fun thing. And when people are like, "Oh man, I so much funnier than that guy or this guy," or hiding information from other people, it's like, why do that? Why make our job that much harder? So So I posted that because I'm like, this is a great opportunity. And basically, what I told Darren is that there's this CD Baby will help get your album on Pandora and Spotify and all these different sites that you wouldn't even think of. And there's also this YouTube connection, which allows them to track your YouTube content. If somebody's posting your videos or sharing your videos on YouTube, they find it. You know, they can determine like, oh, that's Darren Carter had all these algorithms that connect to him, so he'll get that money. And for me, it's been huge. I mean, I released my album May 8th, and it's now August, and I've made like $500 or $600, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, it's like huge. So yeah, I can't recommend it enough.
That's great. Yeah, that was something that I that same thing about the competitive thing. I think I was probably competitive like the first year because I didn't know any better, and you're just a kid. I was just a kid. And I was like, well, I'm better than that open micer. And then you realize like it doesn't matter. And can you be better than you were like a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever? And especially now with the information age, it's like some of the way that I start out my morning is I'll drink coffee and I'll watch YouTube tutorials. And I love how that it's kind of a loving community in a sense, if you look for it. Sharing information, saying, and I love to do that. I love to say, anytime anyone goes, how do I do this? How do I do that? I go, this is the microphone I use. This is the camera I use. Like right now I'm using this webcam called a Logitech. It's what's it say? HD 1080p Logitech. And I got it for, it was gifted to me from my brother-in-law. I go, hey, do you happen to have any extra webcams? Cause he's in the computer world. He goes, yeah, I got one. And thank you. So it just kind of
everyone has my brother is also like a computer genius, and he's like makes way more money than I do, and then I'm I think that's the norm, right?
It helps because I used to do I would try to do some of these Zoom shows, and I was just using like the computer microphone and camera, and it didn't sound as good. So then somebody online said, why don't you guys get like a microphone you could plug in? And so I got this. It's called I think it's called a Jonivo or something, but it looks like this. It has a mute button and all this kind of stuff. And it's you get it on Amazon. I just go with the one that has like good ratings, and this is like $30-$40, and it just kind of, if anybody's watching this and they want to learn how to do this, you do that,
Right. But I remember when I was starting in comedy, I started in probably 94, 95. And you were one of the first comics I remember seeing on this site called comedy.com.
Oh, yeah, comedy.com.
Right. And I remember seeing you like, who is this guy? Like, because you were on The Tonight Show with Leno. And then I remember you did the movie with John Travolta.
Be
and
cool.
I was like, Be Cool. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this guy's someday I'll be on his podcast. So,
yeah, that's right.
Dreams come true.
And where were you living back then? Were you in Milwaukee at the time?
Yeah, I was in Milwaukee. That's where I started. I spent my first 5 or 6 years there. And, between Milwaukee and Chicago, that's only like 90 minutes away. So I sort of had that good, feet in both worlds of like feet in sort of this very open environment. Milwaukee is very supportive, and Chicago was a little more competitive, and you felt a little more pressure. So it's kind of nice to be in both of those worlds.
Yeah, it's. I used to play the Comedy Cafe. I used to play the Comedy Cafe and with JD and those guys. And
it was gun.
Yeah. Him and his guns. Did you work there? I'm sure you started out there, maybe, right?
Yeah. That was one of the first clubs. Not the first club, but it was like the club to get into in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I could see that. Now, isn't that weird? Like, so that's your first impression of comedy clubs, and you realize that was its own unique thing,
Right.
I think it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was nice. I really liked the cafe. There were 2 cafes. Yeah. Like a few years ago, they opened up another one. Now it's shut down. But
I played the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was like it was sort of like it used to be an Italian restaurant, and it sort of had this nice feel. It had a nice small stage. The crowd was right on top of you. All this sounds horrible in a pandemic.
I know.
But those were ideal circumstances in 2018.
Exactly. A low ceiling, shoulder to shoulder. Right. Yeah. It was the best, guys. No, but he's right sense. Though. Yeah, it doesn't. It's like, but you're right though. Like that, the people be waving like wheat. They'd be laughing like, oh gosh, so it was great, And I always liked it from when I was on, growing up here on the West Coast. When I'd go out there, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm in a, like this is great. Like it'd be all like 80 degrees here, and then I'd land on the plane, in Milwaukee, and it's snowy and cold. I'm like, winter. I could like kind of flirt with winter for 3 days and then get back on a plane and leave. But
you weren't like one of those California guys who'd show up with like a sweater and then have to buy a coat when you got into town, were you?
No, I used to do. I got my my routine down. I would do layers, so I got it down to where I would do like maybe like a regular shirt, and then like a hoodies type sweatshirt, and then like a windbreaker type of thing, or my vest or something. Because my big mistake, it's funny you said it. I got booked in Alaska, and the first time I ever got booked in Alaska. I didn't know what to do. I was like, Alaska. Like I was just picturing like blizzard. And so I got like this puffy jacket. And so I'd have and I would just, basically I would just, it was too hot.
Right. Cause you're on the airplane most of the time. And
exactly.
And if you try to put it in the upper, I don't even know what it's called anymore.
Yeah.
It just takes up a ton
of overhead compartment.
The overhead compartment. I have no references for travel.
Yeah. It's true though. Or the bin or something like that, whatever they call it, the bin. But I remember. I went to Alaska. And it was so cool. I did a college, and I brought my father-in-law with me, and he was 78 years old at the time, and he always wanted to see Alaska. So we had matching like puffy jackets that were like way too big and
like Gore-Tex.
Yeah, these giant jackets, and you realize like oh, you're pretty much just wearing the coat from the cab to the hotel, and then maybe from the hotel. It's like you're only outside for like 2 minutes,
Right, you're not hunting moose or something.
Exactly. So I learned my lesson. Just do layers, and I think the coldest I've ever been though, I was in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and
Oof.
yeah, they and you'd stay at a really nice condo, and then there's a restaurant. I forget the name of it, but it was about I'd say like a 10-minute walk, and it would be very cold. Like it would be like let's say 13 degrees, and but
Right.
what's crazy is that wind. That wind would just. I got to tell you, Tom. I remember I had some of those forget it. They're like leggings, but they're like athletic. Like it's by Under Armour, but it's leggings
Right.
really. So I put those leggings on, the jeans. I went online because I was thought, okay, I don't want to, I'm kind of cheap. I was like, I don't want to just take an Uber from the condo to the restaurant. It's like a 10 to 12-minute walk.
Right.
So I thought I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna do it. And I looked at this YouTube video, and it was by a motorcycle rider in Minneapolis. So I thought, well, this guy must know his business. And he gave all these tips. He said, wear layers. He said, if you can, the secret trick is take cayenne pepper to kind of warm you from the inside out. But I didn't have any.
Right.
And then do some like a light exercise to kind of raise your do a few jumping jacks, some squats, some push-ups before you go outside. But I got to tell you, I mean, he might have just been messing with me, but on this video. But the thing that I did, so I did this right. I'm getting a nice little like a light sweat going. I'm layered up. I'm ready, man. And where I messed up though is he said to put on Vaseline. Because he said that way the wind will go around you. The wind will go.
Right.
But I ended up putting on. I didn't have any Vaseline, so I had lotion. So I lotioned my body up, and you know what, man? I was actually pretty warm for about the first 2 minutes because it felt good after all that exercise. But then what happens is, and you already probably see it coming. It's like the light sweat gets real clammy,
Right.
and it's just I felt like things were sticking to me with the lotion and even though I was covered up, this part was exposed. Like your cheeks are exposed. Yeah. Like this is so cold. I mean, it was unbearable. I felt like I was just getting punched in the face. Like I turned.
Well,
yeah.
I lived in Milwaukee, till I was almost 30, and I mean, I used to have a paper route, and I'd deliver papers in 30 below weather, and literally just ice cubes coming out my nostrils.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it was so cold, and that's why when I come here to living in California, I'm like, how do you complain about the weather here? Like,
I know.
I don't care if it's raining or if it's, I mean, fire obviously is the worst, but that's not really weather. That's just nature. But I can never complain about the weather here. I'm like, this is perfect. Like Milwaukee was 10 months out of the year, just miserable.
How about fog? Have you ever been in fog?
Yeah. In Wisconsin, it would get bad if it would suddenly get warmer, and then all the snow would sort of rise up. And I remember up in Appleton, I'm sure you performed in Appleton at the Comedy Cafe.
I never did, but I'd like to. If it's still around, I don't know.
Yeah, now it's. Anyways, it's.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not there anymore. They have Tacoma opened a club there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I remember driving home, and I remember just not being able to see, and it was just like, what am I doing? I finally just pulled. But it's like, you know how you want to leave the show on a Saturday night and just get home and sleep in your own bed.
Yeah.
And it's never a good idea. I never recommend doing it. I don't care where you are. It's like, just stay there, get up early the next morning, go home.
Yep, that's right. Because as the day goes by, it's just going to get better. The sun will burn it off, and the fog will rise. And I grew up around fog. I grew up in the Central Valley in Fresno, San Joaquin Valley, and that whole central area. They say it's like a bathtub because we're surrounded by mountains. So like the fog, the Thule fog they call it, and it was just. So I'm used to where you can barely. Sometimes it's been so thick you can't even see like the hood of your car. I mean the front of your car. I mean it's that, and it's just not worth it. Even though. I used to, if you get stuck, you're supposed to, I guess, roll your windows down and go super slow and don't turn your bright lights on because then it reflects back in your eyes. But
whenever I hear somebody's from Fresno, I always have to ask them, do you know Kevin Federline?
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? He's from it's like saying like Burbank, Glendale, or he's from Clovis, I believe. And it's
I've been to Clovis.
And then the local newspapers, like when I was growing up, the real estate section would always say Clovis School District, because that's the rich part of town. So for me, so you guys, everyone in the world just thinks, oh, Kevin Federline, Fresno, but me, I'm like, but he's really from Clovis, like
right now everyone's trying to figure out who Kevin Federline is.
Yeah, Britney Spears' baby daddy, right? Am I right?
Yeah, baby daddy. Yeah. So
yeah, we had a few celebs like that. That was one of them.
That was always my joke about the Kevin Federline. I went to the Kevin Federline Museum today whenever I performed in that area.
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah. Fresno. There's a town up there called. I haven't done this joke in a while. Maybe I'll bring it back. It's so corny, but it's a farm joke. There's a town up there called Raisin City.
Oh yeah.
And every now and then I would say, I was in Raisin City, man. They got some attractive women there, but I got to be honest, the ones in Grape City are much younger.
I love those jokes.
Skin isn't as wrinkled, or whatever, Yeah.
Did you ever perform in Delano?
Yeah. Bakersfield. Yep.
That casino there. I mean, I guess that might be a little further out. But,
no. Yeah. It's I always pronounce it Delano, but Delano, and it's the Aviator Casino, I believe, right? They're off the 99.
Yeah, I performed there. Pretty much an entirely Hispanic audience, and everyone spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
At one point, I was doing my act in Spanish because nobody was listening. Everyone was playing cards. It's literally on the casino floor.
Yeah, that's a tough gig. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you're a lunatic yelling. That's how I feel like shows are right now, right? Like performing at a drive-in theater or outside, because everyone's so far away, and it's just like it turns into a rally as opposed to like a comedy show.
Yeah, I did one that actually went well. It was but I saw one online. Jimmy Schubert showed one where he's like on a stage, but then there's a road going between him and the audience. I'm like, that's got to be weird, and apparently like a couple cars had gone through the road. It's just weird. But the one that I did was in Ventura. It was in a parking lot of a church, and they had a budget. They filmed you, so they put your image up on a giant screen behind you like you would at a concert, and then also they projected it on the building wall so people can see. And then there was about 20 people in front of us, and then the rest were standing outside their car or chilling by their car or in their car, and it was like a mixture of laughs and people honking the horn. So I felt like I was performing for the Transformers.
That's funny.
Hey, I got to tell you a quick joke, though. One of the comedians on the show, he talks. He has like blonde highlights, and he's very handsome, and he talks. He's kind of a feminine kind of a guy, a little bit, and I think he hams it up for this particular joke. But he goes, I'm married, and then he pauses and he goes, to a woman, and all the cars were going beep beep, honk honk, ooga ooga, beep beep beep. It was their way of going like, yeah. Yeah.
I know. The applause breaks. Did you do any crowd work, or did you?
Yeah, I did do some. I think I said that Transformer line. Then I said something about, like honk your horn if you're, or whatever. All the ladies in the house, and you honk your horn, whatever I said.
Right.
I kind of riffed off of it. I forget what I did at the time. Here's what was a bummer, though. Like, it was so fun. It felt like comedy was coming back. This might have been in like May. I think the end of May. I felt like things were like, okay, all right, And I think what was kind of a bummer is just afterwards, as I'm driving back home, I'm like going, oh, that joke actually worked. And this one, oh, I could. And then you realize like, oh, wow, I don't know when my next show is. Like,
Right.
Because usually you have a show. Yeah.
I heard somebody say that about how like, before, if we had a bad show, there's one tomorrow or there's one in a couple of days. But now it's like, that's it. Like, I got to ride this wave of euphoria for another 3 or 4 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So however good or bad it goes, you really sticks with you for a bit.
Yeah. You know what? It's what's that phrase about the only thing that stays the same is change or something like that?
Right. Yeah.
The only thing that changed, whatever, some cliche, but it's true right now. It's like,
right.
Yeah, these true cliches. No, but no, I remember. Yeah.
Because every day is just, you can't make plans, right? Because it's just like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I can't, if I have a gig booked in October, I don't know what October holds. So
Yeah,
I really have to
yeah.
live day by day.
I had a gig booked back in like I think in the beginning of April, and then they, canceled it, and then they were like, we're thinking, end of June, which at that time sounded so far away, and we're like, yeah. And then as the end of June came, he's like, how about we just do like end of August? And then recently he was like, the promoter, here's the thing, they already gave me like half the money, so I know that they definitely are invested in it, and I know that they kind of want to get their money's worth. So, the guy goes, okay, what about the governor shut everything down, but how about if we perform like at a local park? And it was supposed to be at a local park, and he took photos, and I just got the feeling that I'm like, well, I don't think there's going to be security there, and it's kind of I don't know, man. And then I didn't feel good about it. And then I basically wrote back like, hey, why don't we wait until we can, with 100% confidence, promote the show, not knowing it's going to get yanked back. And the guy was like, you're right, let's do it that way. Because I could tell he's probably like wanted to do it, but kind of wanted to feel it out. And
right. What is your feeling on that? Like Steph and I have had a couple of shows where we were like, let's hold off, I think we had the show scheduled in June, and then then the cases went up, and then he wanted to do something in August. I'm like, and the cases have never been higher. Do you think that you just need to give guidance to these venues or
well, I think, yeah, see, if like the church one I felt okay with because they had money, you know what I mean? Like when I say money, they had proper security, people were in their cars, I didn't really come in contact with anybody, or very little, people had
no merch sales.
Yeah, what's funny is I did do merch sales, but I said, because I was like, you know what, man, I'll just wash my hands afterwards. I mean, if I'm gonna like be running my credit card at the, the Jersey Mike's or whatever, I'm like, you know what? So here's what's funny about merch sales. Normally at a show, you're like, hey guys, I'll be by the exit. Let's do a meet and greet, and we'll do whatever. And it's better if you call it a meet and greet.
Right.
We're doing a meet and greet. Yeah, exactly. A meet and greet, but bring that $20. No,
right.
No, but you get to meet my hand. Ding. No, and I'll greet you with the merchandise. But so I said, hey, if you guys want to come by, It's one thing when it's a club and everyone, they kind of walk by you, or they're like, hey, whatever. Well, we're gonna follow you on, Instagram, or we'll subscribe to your YouTube channel or whatever. But it's different when you're like, when you say, thank you, good night, I'll be over here. And then it's almost like everyone just clears out of the parking lot, like, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. It's like,
and they drive past you as you're
yeah, people were literally their cars started up and they all like headed out like toward like the far exit. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess, which actually made me feel safer because I'm like, well, they're not going to touch me or try to take a picture with me.
Right. That's true.
But a couple people did come up and it was good. And they go, hey, can we take a photo with you? And, and they just, for a quick second, just stood next to me and we just kind of like went like the nut didn't touch. And then they walked away. And I was like, you know what, that's what you would do on an airplane, or you'd be in an elevator with someone for a brief second. I think I read somewhere that it's if you're in a closed place for a long time, right? Is that what I don't know. Right. It's always changing, but that's what they said. So
they'd say it's like the problem is like the ventilation system's in place and the air recirculating.
Yeah.
So if you're in a place for an hour or 2 hours, that's the problem with comedy clubs. If you don't have a good ventilation system, then you're all breathing the same air. Plus you're expelling, particles when you're laughing or when you're talking. So yeah, it's, I mean, of all the things to get this pandemic is obviously horrible, but boy, it really was all the right circumstances to end stand-up comedy, because it's all the things we need that we can't do.
I know. I know. I love it when they would say, there's this club you got to check out. It's like low ceiling, all that good stuff. And then when they built the newer clubs, I always hated how the ceilings are high. Yeah. Everything was so big, but maybe that's good for now. Maybe because they seat, like those improv seat like 600, 700 people. Maybe it's good if there's only like, half capacity or 25% or,
Yeah. That is, for them, it's good. What do you think of that? Of like, I felt like, and I feel like this is in society too, that there's sort of this upper class comedian who can pack a 500, 600 seat room, and guys like us are kind of left in the lurch of like, we're funny. We're not going to draw 600 people.
Right.
And I feel like the improvs and some of those clubs are kind of shutting us out because it's like, well, we need to just make a lot of money. We don't care if we're shutting you out.
You know what?
It's sort of disappointing.
It is. And I think it's one of those things where that's what I was saying with the change. Like, I'm like, you know what? Okay, what can we do to keep building our audience and staying connected with the audience that we already have? And it's like, this kind of thing is going to, is great. And also one thing, if I were to look at this as the glass half full, I found out about, I don't know, maybe a year ago, 18 months ago, that you could implement selling tickets through Instagram. So you put your link in the bio and the link would be on Eventbrite. So what you would do is you make a really funny video or like a little ad, like a 20-second ad of like your stand-up, like Tom Clark's coming to your town, and then there's a link, and then they click that Eventbrite link, and then boom, and then what you do is you could advertise anywhere you want within a zip code, within a radius. So you could, a friend of mine would be like, I want to play Lincoln, Nebraska. So he'd throw $50 towards local ads in Lincoln, Nebraska on Instagram and Facebook. And people would be like, oh my God, he would say this all the time. They'd write him, hey, I just saw your video. You're so funny. And I can't believe you're like right by my house. And he goes, little do they know, I target marketed that zip code like that, so.
Right.
I don't know, let's say that goes away because I don't know how effective I don't know. But then there's always going to be something new that's like that. You know what I mean, Tom? So as long as we have, like, what's not going to do that is if we post a picture of like a sunset or, like, here's my salad. No one's going to want to come see it, but it's okay to show a little bit of that. But I was just on your YouTube channel and I was cracking up. And you guys go to Tom Clark's YouTube channel, and the opening video was one where you're doing something with phone scammers. Like some guy was trying to get money out of you and you film the whole thing. It's hilarious,
Yeah, I get these calls. So yeah, that was something I just did where I was getting these scammer calls. I just decided to start recording them. And yeah, I have like 8 of them up on my YouTube. It's youtube.com/Tom Clark Comedy. Yeah, I mean, and I never thought they would take off, but one of them got almost 1 million hits or million views on my Facebook page. And it's just like, it's funny what we think is like, oh, this is my best stand-up bit. And it's like, we're gonna get 1 million views on it. You get like 100 views, and then something you put no time into suddenly just takes off. And I think that's sort of the joy and the pain of comedy is you just don't know. You think you know, you don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying different things on my YouTube channel. I'm doing a little bit of podcasting, a little bit of fitness things, because I've been staying up right now I'm in LA, but I'm staying up at the farm up where we grew up. And
oh, wow.
And it's nice just to find things around the farm. And how can I work out with this? I mean, I'm going nuts up there. Like, they have those battle ropes where people go like this with the battle ropes.
Right.
I just took some old chains that you would use to tow a tractor, and I'm picking those up. I'm finding some big pile of tires. I don't know. I'm just having a ball. On 4th of July. Yeah, go ahead.
Were you an athlete? Were you an athlete in high school, or?
Yeah, I was, but not like, major. I mean, I was I did wrestling for a couple years. I did swimming for 1 year, a lot of cross country and track. And then, then my senior year, junior and senior year, I discovered, it was called forensics. I don't know what they called it where you lived.
Debate.
Yeah. And once I discovered that, and I was able to write like comedy, because they had this thing called speech to entertain and also original prose and poetry. I was like, oh, this is way better than getting up and being at the swimming pool at 6 a.m. Because, those 2-a-days, like swimming in the morning and swimming. I mean, it's fun and everything. But it was way better just to be funny, get the laughs, and get the, all that good stuff.
I was the same way. And I remember I wanted to be a football player, and I played football grade school, high school. I played in college.
Wow.
But I remember going through 2-a-days in high school. That's where you get up and, you do this 8 a.m. workout, and then after lunch, you go again from like 2 to 4. And
wow.
I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, this, I need another outlet. So,
hey, did you? One thing I never had, regretfully, and we'll wind this down, is I I never had like that great play like in a game. Did you ever have that in football where
I remember I recovered a fumble, which was sort of a big thing, but I also remember we were losing 46-0.
maybe they threw you a bone, right? Yeah.
Right. And in college, I got I got a sack in college, but that was another game where we were up like 34-0. But
let me ask you a question. Here's how ignorant I am when it comes to football. Is a sack? Does that mean you got to tackle? Is that the same thing?
I tackled the quarterback while he was trying to throw.
So that's called a sack? Is a sack specifically tackling a quarterback?
Yeah. So if you sack the quarterback.
I know. You guys leave in the comments how dumb I am. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about football. Like,
yeah. You should. That would be fun. That'd be fun for you to watch football, and I can explain it to you as you watch. Like, what's happening?
Dude, I know, and I don't want to be that guy. It's like, but like, I got to tell you, this is like when the Rams came to town, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get on board. I'm going to learn everything about football. I'm going to get all the Rams clothes. I'm going to have a team finally, because I used to feel that envious where I'd see, guys would have this instant bond. And I got to tell you, I watched a lot of the first season, but we ended up just like recording it. And then, cause I don't like sitting down for 3 hours or whatever. So,
right.
And so we'd go out and we'd go Griffith Park or we'd go somewhere to a high school and run stairs. And then when I come back, then I'm like, let me just forward through all the boring parts. And then it just got to the point where I was like, yeah.
Yeah. I think just having played it for 12 years, I'm like, I love watching it. I love the intricacies.
Oh, it's cool. So you get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it has gotten worse over the years between all the reviewing plays and the commercials. So yeah, I get it too.
I think my brother-in-law has that thing is called Red Zone or something where the TV jumps over to like when the football is within 20 yards of a touchdown or something like that. Or
right, yeah, you can get the NFL Red Zone.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Also, do you follow boxing at all or UFC, any of that kind of stuff?
I was big in the boxing back in the late 70s and 80s. When you had like Larry Holmes and like those were like some. Fights, and even like the Tyson years were good, but he was just so dominant. So I haven't really followed it in the last 20 years since Tyson left.
Yeah, I joined a boxing gym about 4 years ago, and I got hooked onto it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it reminds me a lot of stand-up. Like it's just one person, and you're in there, and it's all you, and you have to. But then you also have to have a team behind you, and then at the same time. You realize like there are certain fighters that get kind of pushed up, just like with comedy, like they might have a certain, people that kind of push them a little bit. So it's interesting though. But at the end of the day, as I talked to a 2-time world champion, Buddy McGirt, he said, you can have the biggest crew behind you, the whole posse, the whole thing. They're all going to walk in. You're going to walk 3 steps up into the ring, and they're going to walk 3 steps down and go back to the chairs. So,
right.
So at the end of the day, it's you.
Do you know, I went to grade school and high school with Duke Rufus. Do you know any of the Rufuses?
No.
Duke and his brother Rick was a kickboxer. He was like the kickboxing champion, but I remember those guys. But I also remember that Rick used to get into fights in grade school, and he always used to get beat up because he'd always try to use his karate on people.
Oh.
And so the fact that he's like a kickboxing champion, you're like, it's like never give up. Never give up.
Yeah, he never gave up. Oh my God. It's like, let it go, dude. That was like 3rd grade. It's like, in closing, I grew up in California, and I always like to ask people, because I know parks were set up differently around the country. What was your favorite, when you would go to a park, when your mom and dad or somebody would take you to a park, was there something that you were just so excited to play on, or do you have any park memories or certain stories?
Unfortunately, I have a tragic park memory. You remember like back in the day, like the swings were made out of steel, right? They were just like, they were unforgiving. And I remember I walked behind, it was like a horse, and it was like a steel bar, hit me right in the lip, split open my lip. And I had to, I was bleeding. I had to go to the hospital, get stitches. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. It didn't traumatize me, but I remember taking the long way around the swings for the rest of my life.
Yeah. It was.
But
What
I
was
did
it?
love.
Did you say it was a
like
horse? You say it was a horse?
Yeah,
It was
like
a steel.
horse. It was sort of like a bar, but it had a horse's head on it.
Oh, it was
Very
a swing that
disturbing.
was like a horse. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you could go so high with it. Like it was better than just the regular swing because it just had more like a pendulum. So you were like swinging way up. I think my favorite thing. I remember we greased up a slide once, like one of those steel slide, and just
yeah.
slid like into the grass, like you overshoot the grass. So. In Milwaukee, they had Summerfest, and they had some pretty cool slides. So those are what I remember. But there was no I could never do a pull up, so monkey bars were out of the question for me. But yeah, I love the slide. I think that was my favorite, especially if it was way up high and it had a little bump in the middle of it.
Yeah. That's crazy. Were you ever? And how about bike? Did you used to ride a bike when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, I had a terrible bike. I had a bike called a Spider bike, Spyder, and it was purple, and it was the cheapest bike I think my parents could get, and but I did like it, but it was embarrassing because the kids would make fun of me because it was purple. And it was called Spider. It wasn't a Schwinn. It wasn't a BMX. It was just a crappy bike. But now I wear that badge with honor.
That's right, man. Well, Tom, thanks for coming on, and love to have you back on, and tell people where they can find you. Once again, on YouTube.
Tom Clark Comedy on Twitter and Instagram, and then my website is tomclark.com. It'll have all the links to my albums and my specials, and
and I love you and your wife filmed you guys were doing a series for a while.
Yeah, we
Clarks.
filmed the Clarks. Yeah, that's on my YouTube page, and we have like 7 or 8 episodes with phone scamming videos. There's a lot. Keeps you entertained.
That's cool. Tom, you're the best, man. Thanks for keeping us laughing, and let's just keep putting good stuff out there.
For sure. Thanks, Darren.
Give my best to your wife, and we'll talk to you soon.
We're done with this interview.
Thank you again for watching this video. Slap like, give it a nice thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hopefully I can get this kitchen remodeled and take care of that weirdo back there in the window.
Podcast for free and listen to the Pocket Party.